Welcome, history enthusiasts and gaming strategists. This is Too Old for Gaming, and today we're going to be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between the past and the virtual battlegrounds of World War II. Imagine stepping into the shoes of commanders from that era and making decisions that could rewrite history. That's pretty much what we're going to do here today as we dive into the intense gameplay of Steel Division 2. We are going to be focusing on the Battle of Argenta Gap. This wasn't just any battle, it was a turning point in the war in the course of history. So if you've ever wondered how your strategic prowess would fare in the shoes of a World War II commander, this is your video chance to find out. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to the channel for more gaming videos that go into the most epic battles of World War II. So here we are kicking off our match. I am on the Axis division. I am playing the 4A Alpina Monterosa against very hard AI, the 2nd New Zealand. As we enter the match here, he has a very heavy force up center. I've sort of spread things out. He's got a Spitfire, just seeing everything I've got moving through here. Unfortunately, I don't have the points to bring in anything to bring that down for a significant amount of time. I'm setting up defensive positions because my trucks, as anyone who's played this game knows, are incredibly slow. I think they might be the slowest ones in the game. So they take forever to get to the front, and if you're trying to hold flags, not necessarily a good thing. Now down to the south, he really hasn't brought in much at all. I probably could have done a better job of pushing here earlier on in the game. In the center, he's going pretty hard at my guys. Shooter killed on the Staghound, fortunately for me, but he has several more tanks coming in. Up to the north, I've got my AT cannon suppressing his troops who are trying to make it across the bridge, and a pretty decent sized force here to garrison this city. So, setting the stage for this battle, the 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force included the 2nd New Zealand Division. They went through a series of challenging battles during the Italian campaign of World War II. They showed their valor and determination in the North African campaign and the Sicily campaign, but their ultimate objective was the liberation of northern Italy. Prior to the Battle of Argenta Gap, the New Zealand Division under the command of Major General Howard Carl Kippenberger had seen action in the North African campaign at El Alamein. He was a distinguished military officer displaying strong leadership qualities and rose to the rank of captain in World War I. His courage and determination really played a critical role in the Allied victory. Alright, so as we look at the center of our map here, my Alpini recruities, probably pronounced that wrong, are breaking, and he's continuing to push forward. I noticed I didn't have enough defenses here, so I brought in as many of these P-26s as I could. I've got 90 millimeters of penetration. These Sherman 3s, though, have 100 millimeters of frontal armor. So, fortunately for me, these Bersaglieri? I'm going to pronounce that wrong. My recon troops have Panzerfaust. Well, what's he shooting at? He's retreating troops. So, he's just out of range, but that's going to change here. Gets the Sherman. Gets the 2nd Sherman. So, these guys really saved me. As you saw, that P-26 shell just bounced off the front. And now I've taken out all his Shermans, which I think are 80 points apiece, leaving him with just Staghounds, which these guys can easily take out. Up to the north, I've got my troops garrisoned in this town. I also know that there's typically some pushes through this swampy area, so I set up a machine gun position with some recruits. He's got one set up here on the other side of the bridge. There's no heavy armor, really, with the Italian division. It's mostly troops, air, and artillery. So I'm waiting until I can bring in some heavier stuff. As you can see right now, he's making an advance down the center in this sector. And these troops are only 15 points apiece, so I can bring in a whole platoon of them. One nice thing about the Italians in this game is that most of their troops have radios, so I don't bring in radio spotters for my artillery since the front lines typically are already covered. If you're playing this game, you really want to have radios up front so that your artillery can hit accurately and you're not just wasting rounds. These auto blindinas are alright as well. I'm just going to make a sort of armored push here to see what sort of defenses he has. You know, a lot of times there's a big push here, but not this time. So the opposing commander on the German side was Colonel Giorgino Milazio. He didn't really have much information on him online. I couldn't really find much information on the fascist division at all from Italy, but I did find some personal history on him. He had been injured in 1944 in an ambush, and the injury wasn't minor. He lost one of his fingers, so he went on a series of reprisals against these partisans. A few of them were killed, and then after the war, he had been taken to criminal trial, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I think he served 10 overall. All right, so holding here, just so I can bring up more troops. I think I bring up some infantry to take this sector. Fortunately for me, I'm stopping these guys here. I need to bring up some more equipment to battle his better troops here. Staghound goes down. Let's see if I get a flanking shot on any of these guys. I'm aiming for the mortars. You know, it's surprising to have a Sherman being a terrifying tank in this game. But like I said, as the Italians, you don't get really many AT guns. I started off with 3 in Phase A, and their tank capabilities just aren't great. You can see the shells just bouncing off. Does get a side shot there to destroy him. Heat rounds coming from the 75-13 here. Not very accurate, and I don't know if they'll penetrates. It's great. I brought in my hero, and he shoots down that Spitfire. I love these G-55 planes. Such a cool design. So down to the south here, I'm starting to lose some of these well, they're basically recon cars. They just don't have the optics in the game. This little Stuart here takes out one. Takes out the second one, but I get him to fall back with suppression. But he's got a Piat right here, so I'm sure he's going to go down any second. So the Battle of Argenta Gap started on April 9th, 1945, so we're at the very, very end of the war here. The New Zealand division was fighting along the other Allied forces, you know, the British, Indians, Americans. It was held by elements of the 1st Parachute Division and the Hermann Goering Division. The Gap was. They were pretty well fortified and set up. Obviously, the 4A was there as well. There was really heavy fighting. Minefield, strong points, defensive lines. They were basically undetermined, as my guys here in the center are doing the same, pushing back these Greek troops. And I don't know what my mortars are shooting at, but whatever it was is gone. Up to the north here, situation is about the same. He just keeps pushing our tanks across here, but I have a decent line of fire on that bridge and enough range with this 75mm cannon. So in the center, it looks like I'm about to retake this flag at this farm. Down south, I had started pushing forward some troops as I realized he didn't have a whole lot here. This 2-inch mortar was suppressing these guys really well, so I brought in a sort of a panic, brought in another G55 to suppress it and push it back. Seemed to do okay. Unfortunately, these guys are almost completely suppressed and they surrender to the leader over here. Not going exactly the way I wanted to. I've got my light tank back here just to kind of give some overwatch to this area. Probably should have moved up this machine gun quicker, given that he didn't attempt to make an advance here. Really like these Burst Ligiri troops. Really great recon troop. And you can bring them in these, I'm not going to pronounce the name, these light trucks that have a machine gun on them as well. So, and they also have excellent optics. They're very high. So my recruits have recaptured this flag, and we're back to a 12-12 here after almost 12 minutes of gameplay. Starting to advance the tank across the bridge. These recon troops are doing a great job of holding this area for me while I move additional reinforcements forward. Bringing in the leader to give them another veterancy star. And I've got some direct fire with these 75s here, but amazingly they still miss. Up to the north, he's trying to make a push across the bridge, but I've got artillery set on it now as well. I think these are only 45 points. And I want to say they've got 45 rounds of ammo, and you can see they're not as quick as a mortar, but they fire pretty fast, with 8 rounds a minute. So, not bad to bring in. I mean, they're cheaper than a mortar, and I think they have more ammo or around the same. So, as I mentioned, there's significant heavy fighting in the area in the actual battle. The New Zealand division had quite a bit of artillery support in tanks. In this match, we're not really seeing the artillery support they would have had in real life, but we're definitely seeing a lot of tanks. They played a pretty pivotal role in terms of neutralizing the German positions. I mean, you can see I'm doing that here with artillery just to force these troops back. I'm imagining in the real world scenario the reverse was happening. Just like the actual battle, the New Zealand troops had to go through a river crossing. The river was the Santorino River. Definitely a challenging operation. They would have brought in engineers to build roads across with pontoon bridges. unfortunately not implemented in the game. I've got some M1441 tanks moving in. Really not great for much, but infantry support against infantry. So most of his efforts are, again, through the center here, trying to capture this flag, and then up in this area. He's got 81mm mortars on my recruit troops. I want to say I don't have great reconnaissance positioning right now, but fortunately for me, he doesn't get anyone in position to take out these armored cars. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. P-26 goes down. The formidable Sherman tank. Starting to shell the northern town here, but fortunately for me, my troops are holding on. As I mentioned before, I often see a push through the swamp. He's doing that right now. Got my 15-point machine gun position here that's done a pretty good job, and these recruits in the tree line. This P-26 position actually is pretty good too, because there's no line of sight down this road, so his Shermans haven't taken him out. He can get a side shot here on a Sherman, and then when I need to go for this flag, let's say this position gets overwhelmed, I've got a clear field of fire, up here to keep that contained. These GNR troops have the newer sort of defensive bonus points, so I like to use them just to sort of hold areas. Unfortunately, they don't have anti-tank, but in this area, it's not really needed. So these suppressed troops pick themselves up and start moving forward. And like I said, the only thing I really have right now for these Shermans are these 75s, because they can do 190 millimeters of penetration. Down south, I've captured the town. In real life, the reverse was happening. The New Zealanders captured the town of Argenta. They fought their way into the town, which was a key objective of the battlefield. Again, very heavy fighting. And they eventually linked up with other Allied units in the area, including the American and British forces, as part of a broader spring offensive in Italy. So once they had captured the town, the German forces finally surrendered. After that, they were basically able to advance towards the Po River, which, if you look at a map, is in very north Italy. And it was, I think, 5 days after that surrender at Argenta, the entire country of Germany did their unconditional surrender to the Allies. So it was really one of the last major battles in Italy. Before researching this, I had no idea. And, the Axis troops really held out as long as they could. Once that town was captured and they were across, they were basically lost all their heavy equipment, so they had nothing left to do but surrender. But, again, a critical battle in the liberation of Italy from Axis forces. And the New Zealanders were instrumental in making that happen. So, everyone's favorite off map is coming in. This is the... it doesn't show me on here. 172.5 millimeter guns. I could see all of his 50 cal fire over here, and I figured by the time this artillery was called in, all of his tanks would be in this area, so that's why I set it over. And I knew he had the Vickers here, so I wanted to suppress that and take it out. I managed to get a half squad across the river here, and after I had broken through, I was able to hold this position here in the town with these tanks, even though they're not great at fighting other tanks, and occupy the woods here with some troops. Now, he's bringing in a Sherman, which is basically a King Tiger in this scenario, to take on my Italian tanks. So let's see what happens here in a few minutes. So my Bersaglieri's are just kind of reconning the position I wanted to see was up here. Maybe if I should make a push across the river here. But at this point, we're at a 13-11. New Zealand is still capping more flags. He has wiped out my machine gun position and my recruit troops here. But I'm bringing in, this is either a 15 or 20 point tank to push him back. And, you know, it's nice. It's got 2 machine guns on it. Heat round takes out the Sherman. It says it's only 70 millimeters of penetration, so I don't know if that's accurate or wrong. Maybe that's the AHE shells. I don't think AHEs have any, but as you've seen twice in this game, they've taken out Shermans, and he has a ton of armor, mostly Staghounds, and quite a few Shermans. So when I built this deck, I realized I didn't really have a ton of anti-tank capability. I needed artillery to suppress his anti-aircraft guns, because he has Bofors, which are excellent. And so that I could bring in Ju-87s because they fly so slow. They're like sitting ducks. However, these 37 millimeter gun pods, it can easily take out a Sherman. So I've managed to make a, I don't know, would you consider this a bridgehead here? And reinforce this area with MG42, keep moving the 75 up, and keep moving this guy up to see what's out there. Don't neglect recon in this game. It is so important to your overall strategy. So we missed it here, but I ended up taking out a Sherman, and I want to say I had to use a Ju-87 for that, because these punty 47 mils, they're not going to take out one. Bofors hitting the M14. M14 goes down to the Sherman. I set a Alpini up here just in case I could ambush a tank or a truck coming through. So after this breakthrough down here, we're now at a 14-10, where I've taken the lead over the very hard AI. And if you're still with me, thanks for listening along. I know this is a very long match. Surprised. The armor on the P-26 up front is only 75, so luck of the draw, but goes down shortly thereafter. And my cannon is now set up to take out the Sherman, which should be pretty easy. Crew panicked. Fortunate for me. Let's get a second shot off on my M14, so I maintained some armor support here for my infantry. Sherman goes down. He's brought in another Sherman 3, and he's trying to push up this road to recap this flag here. Let's see what's happening up north. He is now shelling this flag, but I've done enough damage to him to have a flag bridgehead, even though I don't have troops here, and take this other flag. So we're at a 15-9. And eventually what I'm trying to do here is mass up a force, bring in artillery in this position because it's pretty hard to recon this, and then push them across the river. Down south, he's just continually bringing in Shermans. My AT guns moved into the woods finally. Gets a hit and a penetration on the Sherman. Miss. Actually get a bounce in the M14. Sherman goes down to the AT gun. And these guys caught in the open are just going to get slaughtered. Unfortunately for me, he's got a mass of troops and armored vehicles here. Takes out my AT gun. My only way to stop this is the Ju-87s. He doesn't have AA over here. It's all the way down here. So fortunately for me, I'm able to take one of his tanks out. These are about, I think these are 100 points. And in Phase B, I want to say I get 4. So I really have to call in a bunch of them just to stem the tide of his armored assault. Because if I didn't have those Ju-87s, I'm certain he would have taken these 2 flags here. These M15s aren't going to do anything against it. And I doubt, you know, I might get a side shot on the P-26 on one of them. He's going to turn and fire and take it out in one shot, though. Managed to hold this bridgehead here. I'm keeping my Pioneers kind of hidden because they don't have a machine gun. I've moved Pioneers up here, and I'd like to take this flag too. M14 still doing work to the south. Let's get New Zealand bringing in a Sherman command tank. Immediately hit. Sherman goes down, and that probably saved the life of this M14 because I think due to the suppression he missed that first shot. Pioneers get spotted out in the open. I don't know how this is in the open. It looks like it's either in light or heavy woods, but they're in the open. It's only 2 guys left here, though. This MG42 position and these sort of hidden cars are really preventing him from getting across here. The P-26 just bounced. Transmission damage on the Sherman, and here comes in the off map. Ju-87's putting in work again. I realize most people use off map for offense, trying to take a town. I mean, sometimes, gotta be honest, you just gotta bring it in to defend. I know that's not how most people use it. I didn't have enough points to make a push here yet, but I really didn't want him breaking through here because as you see, I've got literally nothing to stop him. Moved up my mortars here so I can take out these 40 mils, and he's got 3 because I kept taking him out with the Ju-87s, but now he's still attempting to make a push here with his armored vehicles, and this 75 is just doing work. Now, if I were a human player, I mean, off map here would have been devastating to me if somebody brought that in, and or even mortars or artillery. I would have immediately focused on this anti-tank position. This guy's almost completely out of ammo at this point. How do I get off this thing? There we go. So his force is basically done here in the middle. Up to the north, GNR is still holding on to this position by themselves. I brought in an MG-42 just to cover the area. And I've got 100mm artillery firing into the sector as well. These guys fire pretty fast, too. Takes out the sniper. Stewart retreating. Almost out of shells here as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, we missed it on video, but I did end up making a push for this flag. I mean, he just has so many Shermans. This would have been a great time to bring in another off map. He starts bringing in Boston bombers. Let's see what happens here. Does the P-26 go down? Boston bomber goes down to the G-55s. P-26 goes down to the Boston. I mean, I think that was 20 points, so not a huge loss. Took out these Alpini in here, but I've stemmed the tide. Now he's bringing in 81s, which I think he should have done 5 minutes ago. Locked in at a 15-9. He's bringing in more bombers here. I don't know why he's focused on this position. I think somehow he spotted these M15s. Manages to take out the P-26, but we just get suppression in the M15s. And I brought in a battery here. These battery commanders do add accuracy, even if you have radios. So definitely worth bringing in. And again, the Italian artillery shoots pretty fast. Let's see what they do here. Still making another heavy push across. This Panzer Shrek is critical. He's actually almost run out of ammo at this point. He's taken out so many armored vehicles. And just brought in one of these cheap Italian tanks to kind of hold back this push here, because he's pushing all over the map basically right now. Alright, brings in a bombing run on my GNR commander. I don't know if that was worth it. He eventually had taken out the 75, probably after it ran out of ammo. But don't forget, I've got the Ju-87s. I'm going after this Bofors that I know is here. I can't see it, so we're just kind of shooting in the dark. It's one casualty. And he's down. Immediately bring in the Ju-87s. 2 Shermans go down. He's got more Bofors though. He's got one more Sherman left in a pretty big group here. Brings in the Spitfire to try to take out my cast planes, but decides to turn at the last second. He probably could have killed this one. I think he saw this what is it, C-205V coming in. These guys are fast. I mean, 620 kilometers an hour. Still some heavy fighting up here. I brought in this M15 to replace the P26. Seems to be doing well. I got an M14 here and the MG42, so I've also got a bunch of artillery pieces up here. If you're playing an infantry division, you really don't want to neglect your artillery. It's a decent firefight going here. You can see that he has taken out a significant amount of squads I brought in. But I'm hanging on to this flag to the north, you know, barely. I had to dismount these guys early. I didn't want them to get destroyed in the trucks. Because of the Boston bombers, I started bringing in these 90mm guns because I know he had taken out a few of my units with them. Sherman goes down to the Ju-87, and then these guys are just absolutely annihilated by this off-map. Stewart goes down. At this point, I think my Ju-87s have run out of targets. Down here to the south, still making his infantry push into the town. I don't really have a whole lot to do other than air power against this Sherman as he brings in another. Fortunately for me, there's only a minute and a half left, and it's still a 15-9. I brought in a second mortar here. I think at one point I was mortaring this area, and they got all suppressed and pushed back. Ju-87 gets suppressed, falls back. But he never amasses enough forces to really push me out of this sector. He gets me off that flag, but look at the rest of them. Still holding on up here. These pioneers do. Let's go down. Mallory's. Oh, there goes the grenade. 30 seconds left. 81's going off along with my other artillery pieces here. See if this Panzer Shrek hits this Sherman before the end of the match. This goes down. That's the end of the match. So we rewrote history here today. Let's take a look at the stats. So pretty lopsided in terms of points. 1625 to 5,965. Looking at, that's kind of surprising. That's a minor defeat too. Looking at his troops. Stewart took out 2 cars. 17-pounder took out 2 cars. Sherman Command tank and one of my artillery guns that was shooting heat rounds. More light vehicles. Let's see. Motorized rifles take out 2 squads. And on the other side, as the Italians, let's see what we did here. Recon troops take out 1, 2, 3 tanks. So they used every single Panzerfaust. P-26. This guy really outperformed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units. And a bunch of Shermans. How is it possible? Auto Blendina takes out some troops. P-26 gets a Staghound some troops. The G-55 got a Spitfire and a Boston, my hero, along with infantry. So he did great. Even these recruit squads did great. I mean, jeez. I'd say the P-26 has outperformed. G-55s did great. These 75mm cannons were in just such a great position and taking out massive amounts of armor with them. G-87s did well. 75mm cannons. Yeah, overall, pretty happy with how the troops performed against the New Zealand division. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.